Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Grendha, Search for Lost Triumphs. Grendha is brought to you by Dobtail Inc. It's for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and games range anywhere from 60 to 120 minutes. In Grendha, you take on the helm of one of 4 powerful heroes. There's an ancient tome, and it's said that the hidden secrets of creation were locked inside its pages. There are also whispers that the same book turned a once benevolent god mad and caused him to turn on his own people. There's no way to know if the powerful tome can be wielded for good and restore order because the pages were torn from the bindings and scattered through time and space. The book could not be destroyed, but it could be hidden. Is it time for the book to be finally restored? The primary goal is to reassemble the book Grendha, whose leaves are scattered through time and space. However, as in the case of any battle, the game can be won with strength or intellect. So either outlast your opponents and be the last player standing, or collect and hold all the lost leaves. Search the map, collect those pages, and reform the lost book Grendha. Each player will choose a hero and take command of them and their armies. During the game, you will explore the mythical lands, command your warriors, collect items, discover clues, and gather resources. Your heroes will need to slip through time, enter the celestial city, and discover the location of the lost pages. All right, let's take a quick look at setup. Now, there's a lot going on here, a lot to cover. We're not going to go too deep because I want to show you some of the highlights here. One of the big things at the start of the game that you're going to be setting up is all these diggers. Diggers are kind of this grunt force, and they've built these underground tunnels, and they're here to basically aid you move around the map much quicker. But what's going to happen is that each player is going to receive 25 of these, and you're going to move around in turn order, placing one digger at a time. Now, there can never be more than 3 diggers in any one spot, but they can be placed in any of the different territories. And we'll get to how they help you move in a bit, but this is a big, crucial part of setup. And some of the main resources that you're going to be using throughout the game is artham, gold, silver, wood, and crops. And then you have your territory cards, which are placed on the corners of the board. And this is how you're going to encounter the different spots on the board. And they are color-coded. So I believe it's green, blue, orange, and yellow. But they will sit at the corners of the board, and you'll shuffle through these when you enter a different territory or area, and you'll do what it says on the back. We'll get to that in a minute. And then you have your various cards. You have encounter cards with both a shield and a sword. You have item cards, resource cards, and clue cards. Then the big cards that we need to talk about are the leave cards. These are the pages of the book you're trying to find. And there's guides or clues that are going to lead you to these pages. Those are going to be shuffled up and put in the middle of the table, which is the celestial city that you're trying to get to. All right, and those pages that you find, the leaf cards themselves, those are numbered 1 through 36. And then you have your chakra token, which is really the round tracker as you move through the game. You'll set that up. And then each player takes a character. You're going to put your character at their starting position out on the board and take your corresponding player board along with corresponding guards, and they're all color-coded to the particular types of characters. Now, the thing here is there's all stats like you would expect on these boards. You've got attack and defense, you've got strength and health, and your reputation. Now, at the bottom of your board is your time jump, which we'll get to in a minute. But these player boards are very straightforward and easy to set up. And we can't start the game without starting with a bunch of resources. You get to really start with a lot of these. All those resources we took a look at earlier, you'll get 50 of each. So for a total of 250 resources starting you off in the game. And again, something important to keep in mind is the couple different win conditions. Either gathering those pages for the book or be the last man standing. And when you say last man standing, yes, you can die in this game. So keep that in mind. Each round of the game is considered a moment in time, which you may jump to and from, which is pretty interesting. And throughout the course of your turn, you're going to be doing all kinds of things like moving and exploring and encountering, wheeling and dealing, negotiating, of course, and obviously battling it out for areas. And you'll also have the opportunity to do like resource swaps and that time jump. But ultimately, on your turn, one of the big things you're trying to do, obviously, is get to that celestial city, get those clues, and acquire those leaf cards. All right, so let's take a little bit closer look at some of these actions. We're not going to do a huge deep dive here. I just want to give you a little bit of flavor of how this works. Movement, straight up, just what you'd expect. You're moving across the map, but in order to just move your character, it's going to cost you 1 strength point for every area you move into. Now that's where these diggers come into play to really help you move across the map fast. Remember, they built all these underground tunnels to help you out. And again, there can only ever be 3 diggers in any one spot. But if you're in an area with diggers, you can take them and plan them out where you're going to move. Again, you have to be careful here because you can't have more than 3 in a spot, right? So it starts to be this little bit of a puzzly aspect to the game, which is pretty interesting as you fan out across this landscape. So after you finish your movement and you moved into an uncontrolled territory, that's where these territory cards come into play. They're around the outside of the board. You'll find that territory and you're going to encounter that card, basically flipping over and doing what it says. Now, there could be negative effects, there could be dangerous effects, there could be beneficial things, and there could be just neutral, nothing happens. But the thing is, on the back of these cards, sometimes you're going to be rolling dice to determine what the results are, especially in a dangerous situation. And you have your diamond dice as well as these silver dice. So silver is what you're going to be rolling, but the diamond dice you can purchase. And the way purchasing diamond dice for use against some of these things, which can really help you out early in the game, is that each of the different characters uses a different type of resource to acquire these diamond dice to add to your totals when you roll. So that's something to keep in mind, which is pretty interesting as well. But the thing is that when you encounter those spots, you can get some really good beneficial things like additional reputation. You can get, upgrades to your stats, things like that. And some of these cards just require that you pay a flat fee and then you'd move on to the encounter, which we'll take a look at next. But the thing is that you do have the opportunity to retreat. If you do retreat, and it might be strategic that you're doing so because you just don't have the resources to pay what you need to pay to achieve that. But you're just gonna move back to your main castle, which may set you back a little bit where you're exploring, but it is a viable option. So after you've explored and you've acquired this territory card, then what? Well, you can encounter it, but there's a couple things. You can't really do much with it if you choose to not control the area. And controlling the area typically is when you pay the cost on the front of the card and you'll put a guard, one of your guards, in that territory showing you control it. But either way, that territory card is going to go into your area. And the icons on that card, on the front of it, as well as on the board, correspond. And you'll pull cards from the different decks and put them with the territory card face down. And until you decide if you're going to control this area or not, those cards won't be flipped. So in this example, we have paid the cost and we control the territory now. And we're going to flip over these cards. Now, when you flip over these cards, the first thing you have to do is deal with the shield or deal with the sword. These are your encounter cards. In this case, we just had a shield. So you're going to flip it over, you're going to do what it says, and in this case, it's a positive, right? So you're going to get additional benefits rolling off from this table, as well as adding in your different stats. So that gives you additional strength, which is really cool. And then you get your resources that the cards give you, and there's even an item that you can use later in the game. And so many times you'll be moving into territories that are already controlled by another player, and so battle ensues. And again, you have the red dice and the black dice. These correspond to your defense and your offense ratings of your character. And you'll roll those dice based on your number or your leveled number on your cards. So the attacker rolls the red dice based on their attack rating, and the defender rolls black dice based on their defense rating. And you, just like everything else, you have the opportunity to spend resources to buy diamond dice in order to add to your totals. Whoever is the most in the roll-off, the highest point value, is going to win that battle. And if you were the attacker and you lost, then you're going to lose an attack level. And if you're the defender and you lost, then you're going to lose a defense level. So it's very straightforward and quick the way battles happen. And so what happens to the territory then? Well, the defending player, if they successfully defended, they retain or hold on to the territory. However, if the attacker wins, then they pull that territory and they have the opportunity to control it as well. They have to pay the cost to do so. But when they do succeed and win and grab a territory from somebody else, if a leaf or one of the pages of the book was found there, they are going to acquire that page. So this is another way pages can change hands throughout the game. So why are you trying to control all these areas? Well, eventually you hope to be finding pages of the book or leaves in these particular areas. And the way that works is you have to visit the Celestial City. And you have to keep an eye on where the chakra is, because that's going to adjust how much resources it takes to move into the Celestial City. But that's the area in the middle of the table. So to move in here, you have to be in an adjacent territory, and you have to pay 5 of each of the basic resources to get in here, plus wherever the round tracker is on the chakra. Wherever that is, you're gonna have to add that additional resources to get into this Celestial City. But once you're there, you have a free action. You'll pull one of these leaf guides and it'll give you a clue to where one of the pages are. And if you happen to already control that territory that it's pointing to, then you get a leaf card right away. But your goal here is to get over, make a beeline to the territory that maybe you have this clue to, and control it so you can get pages of the book, which is really the key to the game, getting those pages, along with being obviously the last man standing. Now, one of the more interesting actions here is the time jump. It's pretty cool actually, because as the round tracker goes, the chakra, you will move across the board, but there might be points, there might be reasons that you need to go back to a previous round, a previous moment in time, so to say, or in the future, because there are cards, specifically clue cards, that might dictate certain things, which we'll take a look at. But the first thing you have to do is you have to pay the cost to do this time jump. So time travel is expensive. You have to pay 8 Artham in order to do a time jump, but you also have to pay 1 health and 1 strength. So in this case, we're jumping to 15 round or time slot around the board. And the reason we're doing that is that maybe, perhaps, we found a clue card. This clue card tells us that if we move to a specific location on the board, it'll open a portal, and that portal will take us to the Celestial City. So all kinds of different things can be possible with these clue cards, and reasons that you're going to be traveling back in time, forward in time, things like that. Now, it's also important to note that you have to return back to your previous time, and you have to spend cost for that as well, which is another strength and health. And you have to be careful, you have to balance the cost of all this stuff, because you can be lost in time and space and basically be eliminated from the game. So you can't just be throwing all these resources around. You really definitely have to plan, and you do have opportunity throughout the game again to get more of these things. So it's something to keep in mind, but these time jumps are really interesting. And also throughout the course of play, you might build alliances with players in order to gang up on others, perhaps, things like that. But you can't like trade cards. You can't trade resources or leaves of things, but you can only have ever 2 active negotiations or alliances, maybe shady alliances, going on at any one time. And you can even set like chakra points for that alliance to be over. And you can even cheat and break deals. Now there's also resource swap, that you can take Artham and trade it for regular types of goods or resources. So you'll get a regular resource for every 2 Artham that you spend. And so those are the basics of play. And at the end of the round, you're going to reset your different stats, such as if you have higher strength and health, your strength always gets set back down to wherever your health is, and you'll gain resources from the different areas that you control. And then the first player mark will move on and you start a new round. And so play will continue this way until either one player is left standing or one player has collected all the pages of the book, and that player will be declared the winner. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview. Everything you've seen here has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that may still occur. And with that said, the miniatures that are going to be in this game look amazing. I have very much prototype here, but the ones on the page, and I'll show you a couple here, just look fantastic. Along with the player boards, I think there's a lot of interesting upgrades coming for this game for sure. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this game was that time jump. It really adds a lot of neat back and forth, and that resource management that you have to do really is some interesting trade-offs. And what I didn't mention before is that as you gain these book pages, the leafs, they have different abilities that help your characters out. So they can really change the tide of how things are happening throughout the game. And obviously as you move through the pages, they get more and more powerful. So it really adds a lot to the game. But ultimately, folks, if this looks like something that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it from me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.